They may be small, but don't be fooled into thinking insects aren't a problem. In fact, that couldn't be further from the truth. We've all seen a bug's life, and these little creatures can cause a lot of problems, because in the animal kingdom, size really doesn't matter. The tiny ones sometimes have the strongest bite. These are the 20 deadly insects you don't want to mess with. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a like. Now, let's get started. Number 1. Baboon spiders. Here we have the baboon spiders. Baboons are annoying, if that's any indication. The baboon spider is actually a relative of the tarantula. They are large and hairy with huge frightening fangs, like those cartoon Halloween spiders. They are found throughout Africa, in savannas, forests, and dry lands, where they make burrows under stones and in other underground places. They use their large fangs to help dig into the earth, and yet, they also have a painful bite with a rather unpleasant venom. If you're unlucky enough to disturb one of these spiders, it will probably bite you to warn you. This warning, however, will last for several days and will hurt quite a bit. But it will teach you not to bother big spiders, right? So that's all from the more deadly side of insect life. It's probably best not to mess with any of them, though they don't appreciate your presence. Number 2. Bedbugs. Now, everyone has heard at least one horror story about bedbugs in hotels. These insects are becoming such a big problem in New York that even luxury hotels are suffering from the bedbug epidemic. These disgusting creatures hide in cracks and crevices behind headboards and even under mattresses, all waiting for their prey to fall asleep, to then bite, leaving horribly itchy and unpleasant welts all over the victim's body. They even hide in your luggage, just when you think you've escaped the disgusting bedbug hotel. You then discover they infiltrated your suitcase and are now living with you. You'll need an exterminator urgently. Some techniques to get rid of these pests include vacuuming the areas where they've been, but this must be done every day, and the vacuum must be emptied completely, with the contents discarded outside each time. Putting infested items in a dryer on the highest temperature setting can help kill the bedbugs, but be careful not to melt anything, and always follow the instructions, or you can put things in the freezer to kill the infestation. Steam cleaning, as long as it's at least 130 degrees Fahrenheit or 54 degrees Celsius, can help, but sometimes you'll have to get rid of the mattress and probably even the house and burn everything. Number 3. Asian giant hornet. These extremely unpleasant insects are known by another, less flattering but extremely accurate nickname. The Asian giant hornet is the murder hornet, and with a name like that, you already know these creatures are a problem. In fact, they are more than just a problem. Asian giant hornets are a real threat to bee populations everywhere. They actually seek out and attack bee colonies to kill them, doing this by sending worker hornets to locate the colonies and then marking them with a pheromone. This helps the hornets navigate and return with a large group of murderous companions, and then they come back in even bigger numbers, sometimes up to 50 others, and simply destroy the colony. These violent criminals can wipe out an entire bee population of thousands in just a few hours. Being stung by one of these monstrous hornets is also no joke. Apparently, the pain from their sting has been compared to being stabbed with a hot needle, and as if that wasn't bad enough, the sensation will persist for days on end, and the sting site will swell and continue to hurt long after the sting actually happens. So you'll be reliving that experience repeatedly for a long time. How lucky. Number 4. Fire ants. Ants are very annoying pests, that's for sure. And as soon as you find them in your garden or even a line of them marching into your kitchen, you know you've got a problem. These little creatures can be hard to get rid of once they find a place to settle, and fire ants are even worse. If you've ever sat on the grass for a while before realizing there was an ant nest under your behind, well, then you know these little creatures bite. Fire ants are a bit different from regular ants because they have a deadly weapon. Not only do they sting with impressive fervor, but they also like to spread acid over anything they consider a threat. It's a pretty unpleasant substance that can cause a lot of pain and irritation to the skin. And if they get angry enough and spray a lot of acid, it can even lead to death. How lovely. Number 5. The bullet ant. This is officially the insect with the most painful sting in the world, which sounds super fun. Its name apparently comes from the fact that the sting of one of these little creatures feels like you've been shot by a bullet. And yes, you should probably run away from them. It's the most sensible option. These ants live in tropical rainforests, usually in a calm and merciful way. They're not particularly aggressive and will only sting when provoked. But if you happen to irritate one of these guys, expect all of its friends to show up at the party and start attacking you too. That's right. If you're lucky enough to get stung by a single bullet ant, it will release a chemical that signals all the other nearby bullet ants, and then they'll all gather and sting you until you can't take it anymore. So, if you're in the rainforest, be careful where you put your fingers or feet, because otherwise, you'll need to be prepared for a pain described in vivid detail as a blinding electrical pain that repeats in waves of agony and lasts up to 24 hours. How fun! Number 6. Ticks. These unpleasant insects are a major health hazard and should be avoided as much as possible. Deer ticks are responsible for infecting people with Lyme disease. Thousands of people contract this disease every year. Lyme disease is an unpleasant illness that starts with the bite of a tick that has a target-shaped rash around it. The following symptoms include fever and headaches, as well as long-term symptoms like stiff joints, heart problems, and more. Although few people die from this disease, it can be extremely unpleasant, and those affected may experience a variety of symptoms for many years. The ticks themselves spend most of their lives in the natural environment, and although their lifespan is usually 2 to 3 years, they only spend a fraction of that time with their host. The average deer tick will have only 3 blood-feeding sessions from a host throughout its life. And when a tick egg hatches, the creature that emerges is a larva. These larvae will feed once from a small mammal, like a mouse, and then feed from any available warm body, perhaps even yours, or even a deer. They don't really care. We hope they didn't catch Lyme disease from the mouse and only fed on it once, but once is really enough. Then, they have a season as an adult fully grown tick, and that's when they will do all the breeding and spread the diseases. Number 7. The recluse spider, one of the most venomous spiders in the United States. The recluse can be found mainly in the western and southern states, but they are spread throughout the entire country, so don't think you're safe just because you live in the center. These spiders can be found as far north as Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, and Nebraska, meaning they're practically everywhere. You may know the recluse by another name, as they are often called violin spiders or fiddleback spiders, due to the shape of the front of their bodies. But what you really need to watch out for with these nasty creatures is the super nasty bite. Yes, these spiders have a necrotic bite, meaning it causes the death of body tissue. The venom from the recluse spider's bite destroys the blood vessels around the bite area and can form a huge ulcer on the skin. The problem is that these wounds can heal extremely slowly, making them vulnerable to infection, and it's this that can result in the death of the spider bite victim. So, all of this is absolutely charming, a long and slow death, although it's important to note that deaths from these spider bites are rare, but I'd still be very careful if I were you. Number 8. The Brazilian wandering spider. The Brazilian wandering spider, with its terrifying name, has the dubious honor of being considered the most venomous spider in the world by the Guinness Book of World Records. But how bad can it really be? Well, it turns out it can be very, very bad indeed. So, if you're wandering through the Brazilian forest, you should be careful where you step. These extraordinary arachnids do not build webs to catch their prey. They wander the forest floor at night and hunt them down. This scary spider is a fan of both ambush hunting and the classic direct attack. While they mainly feed on other spiders and insects, they are also known to devour rats, reptiles, and amphibians. They won't bite you to eat you, but they will bite if they feel threatened or surprised, and it will hurt. A bite from a Brazilian wandering spider usually starts with intense, burning pain at the site of the bite, followed by sweating and chills. Then come the more severe symptoms, like high or low blood pressure and rapid or slow heartbeat. This will vary as the body tries to deal with the systemic attack, and a combination of nausea, abdominal pain, dizziness, blurred vision, hypothermia, excessive sweating, seizures, and many other reactions will manifest. Of course, the severity of the reaction will depend on how much venom is actually in the bite, but you'll never know that until it's too late. The good news, however, is that if you're unlucky enough to be bitten by one of these spiders and seek immediate medical attention, you're likely to recover quickly. The things they can do with antivenom and all that are really impressive nowadays. Number 9. The Black Widow. One of the most famous spiders of all, the Black Widow has a deadly name and a somewhat peculiar reputation due to some unconventional habits after mating. These notorious spiders are venomous, although their idea seems to be more about scaring people than killing, which may actually outweigh their ability to cause death, which they can do, by the way, but perhaps less often than you'd expect. In fact, you're more likely to fall victim to a Black Widow if you're a male. The female, antisocial, spends the entire year alone, except for brief moments during mating season, when she will mate, and more often than not, end the romance by eating her partner. But anyway, why should you run from a Black Widow, even if it's not a spider? Well, their bite is supposedly 15 times more potent than that of a rattlesnake. A Black Widow bite will likely make you very sick. Their venom can cause nausea, muscle pain, and even paralyze the diaphragm, making it difficult to breathe. Fortunately, fatalities are rare, as the spiders usually don't walk around randomly biting people. They bite only in self-defense. Children, the elderly, or sick people are at higher risk of being bitten by a Black Widow. But even if you're not any of those types of people, please don't provoke a Black Widow. That's just bad manners, and these ladies don't tolerate nonsense. Number 10. The Deathstalker Scorpion. Well, the next one isn't much better, unfortunately. In fact, with a name like Deathstalker, this scorpion isn't even trying to seem anything less than deadly. This extremely venomous scorpion is found throughout North Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia, and while a sting from these creatures probably won't be fatal, it certainly won't be pleasant. It can be fatal for children, though, and if stung, a child will need much more antivenom than an adult to recover. Here's a tip in case you ever encounter this nightmare. The venom of the Deathstalker scorpion, although deadly, is actually one of the most expensive and sought-after liquids in the world. Naturally, it's quite hard to obtain, which is why it's so exorbitantly priced, but it's doing an incredible job as part of some of the most innovative cancer treatments. Number 11. Indian red scorpion. Although we might imagine that all scorpions are quite dangerous, in fact, of the 1,500 known species, only a few dozen are venomous. But the Indian red scorpion is among the venomous ones and is the most deadly. About 40% of people stung by these scorpions die from the venom. Not a very comforting statistic, is it? These insects live in India, Sri Lanka, and Nepal, and they are a big problem because they have the terrible habit of being where children love to play, usually barefoot. Arachnids, because they are actually arachnids and not insects, are generally nocturnal, but if disturbed or threatened, that's when they'll sting. If you're unlucky enough to be stung by an Indian red scorpion, you can expect the following symptoms: extreme pain, followed by sweating, vomiting, shortness of breath, and then alternating high and low blood pressure, along with a rapid heart rate. Finally, the venom will affect your heart and lungs, which can result in your death. Let's move on quickly then. Number 12. The mosquito. When you consider that mosquitoes can spread infections like malaria, dengue, the Zika virus, and West Nile virus, well, it's probably best to avoid getting bitten by these insects whenever possible. Often, these pests are the most irritating in outdoor areas, when you might want to enjoy a warm evening. There are things you can do and plant to keep mosquitoes away, such as trying lavender, rosemary, and sage in your yard. You can also remove or treat any standing water in your garden, as the flies lay their eggs in the water, which is quite unpleasant. Indoors, you can sleep under mosquito nets, which can be quite romantic if you enjoy a more princess-style aesthetic, of course. Or you can even try an electric repellent, which releases a toxin that keeps insects away continuously. But if you want a more natural alternative, try burning sage and rosemary, because besides being effective, it also has the added benefit of giving off a bit of a witchy vibe, which is a bonus. Now, the ultimate weapon against mosquitoes, the last-minute solution when everything else fails, is to use any available repellent containing DEET. This product is a foolproof way to keep mosquitoes at bay, but always use it according to the instructions, okay? Don't be silly. Number 13. The tsetse fly. Well, this little fly is the horrible nightmare of all worst nightmares. If you could conceive of a truly ugly and dangerous creature, it might be unlikely to imagine something as harmless as a small fly. However, the tsetse fly not only has a horrible bite, but it can actually kill you. The tsetse fly's mouth is full of serrated parts that literally cut through your skin to suck your blood. A bite from one of these hurts, but it doesn't end there. These horrible insects also transmit diseases, and it's not just a common cold. These bastards transmit a fatal disease known as sleeping sickness to the veins of their victims. The disease is transmitted by a parasite that some flies can pass on with their disgusting slime when they bite someone. If left untreated, the victim falls into a deep and fatal sleep. But sometimes the parasite manages to remain dormant in the human body for years before suddenly taking over and plunging the infected person into a dark and possibly endless sleep. Despite its tiny size, the tsetse fly is as powerful as an evil fairy tale witch, except the tsetse fly doesn't care who it curses. Number 14. The kissing bug. While some insect bites are small and discreet, the kissing bug likes to make a real meal out of it. It often bites multiple times in the same area, leaving many clustered marks. Oh, and their favorite places to bite are around the eyes and mouth, hence the charming name. The problem with these disgusting creatures, aside from being truly horrific, is that they are also known to spread a terrible disease that can remain dormant in the body for 10 to 30 years before reappearing and killing you. This disease is Chagas disease, and it is actually transmitted by a parasite that lives in the kissing bug's feces. Basically, you only catch this disease if the bug bites you, has the parasite, then defecates near the bite, and then that feces comes into contact with the bite, or your eyes or mouth, or wherever they like to bite you. It's disgusting, 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 and now I'm getting super paranoid. They are mainly found in South and Central America, but there have been increased reports of these insects all throughout the southern parts of North America. This is not cool, and I don't like it. Number 15. The killer caterpillar. These caterpillars, although eventually transforming into a beautiful brown silk moth, are actually poisonous and deadly, of the most dangerous kind. Yes, these caterpillars can be found all over South America, and despite their harmless appearance, they are absolutely toxic to humans, and not with just any kind of poison. You die in a sort of sudden way, but it's actually a long, very painful, and complete process. They will really kill you, completely, from the inside out, and it won't be pretty. It starts when one of their spines enters you and releases a special kind of venom. These spines are very sharp and easily detach, making this more likely than it might seem. The venom will prevent your blood from clotting. A little of it may not be enough to kill you, but a little more, and the venom will cause serious damage, eventually spreading to your vital organs, including your brain, and causing massive internal bleeding. Of course, a person is big and a caterpillar is small, so it would take many stings to administer that amount of venom, but it's probably not worth the risk to try, right? Number 16. Flea. It may be very small, but the flea is one of the biggest mass killers in world history, second only to the mosquito in its deadliness. Although the Black Death, or bubonic plague, was attributed to several causes, ranging from bad air to evil actions, the true cause was far less significant and could spread almost unnoticed. The true transmitters of this deadly disease were rat fleas. That's right, rats. in addition to being disgusting and capable of spreading a variety of germs on their own, also carry passengers with their own deadly skills in spreading diseases, the worst type of two-in-one deal. What's even more interesting is that these fleas, in addition to spreading the bubonic plague by biting people, can also transmit other infinitely unpleasant infections, such as tapeworms and other parasites that can cause life-threatening diseases. Fun, right? There are, of course, the common fleas from cats and dogs, which are unwanted and preventable visitors, but unfortunately, they sometimes end up showing up in your home anyway. So, you'll need to treat your pet to prevent fleas from breeding on its furry host. After disinfecting your pet, you'll probably need to disinfect your entire house. Carpets, bed linens, and even the floorboards offer these itchy insects a place to hide, hatch, and make a mess. These persistent pests really require some effort to be removed. First, you'll need to wash all your bed linens, blankets, and pillows, basically anything made of fabric, in hot water with detergent. Next, vacuum the rest, including carpets, floors, between the floorboards, and even curtains. Then, you'll need to use a chemical flea treatment. This is really the only way to kill the fleas, or if you prefer, you can spend the money and call an exterminator. After all this work, remember to keep your pet flea-free with regular treatments, or you might end up having to do everything again. Number 17. Bombardier beetle. Next, we have the bombardier beetle. These insects are highly poisonous and can actually be fatal to humans and animals, with a few exceptions, which we'll cover later. Although you, as a sensible human being, probably wouldn't want a beetle-based snack, many animals enjoy this type of crunchy treat. Farm animals are especially susceptible to poisoning, often unknowingly, when the alfalfa hay they're given accidentally contains crushed bombardier beetles. This can happen as the beetles often hang around hay bales and types of crops, and may even end up getting mixed in with things that are later harvested as animal feed. The problem is that even just a few crushed beetles can contain enough of a dangerous chemical to literally suffocate a horse. There are a few animals that can eat these deadly insects without any side effects. Among them are spur-winged geese, who seem to love gorging themselves on these toxic insects. But beware, the toxin from these insects, once ingested by the goose, is stored in the bird's tissues, meaning that even a cooked goose will still be poisonous. A dose of just 10 milligrams of this toxin is enough to kill a human, so choose your Christmas goose dinner with extreme caution. Number 18. Monarch butterfly. Now, they may be beautiful, but they are also apparently one of the most dangerous creatures on the planet. I mean, the larvae of the monarch butterfly are extremely poisonous and could actually kill a human being if you were crazy enough to try to eat one. This happens because the caterpillar feeds almost exclusively on milkweed, and this plant contains a toxin that is not at all good for humans to consume. In fact, the monarch butterfly caterpillar not only freely feeds on this poisonous plant, but also stores the toxic substance in its own body. This makes the small insect super toxic to any animal or person daring enough to consume it. Naturally, as a personal defense mechanism, this isn't incredibly effective, since the caterpillar also dies along with the creature that consumes it. But, as evolution proved effective, these insects are not a favorite meal of other animals. They even remain super toxic when they are beautiful and flying. So, even if you really want to, you shouldn't be walking around eating butterflies, because it could be your last meal. Number 19. Lice. There is nothing pleasant about these insects. They are disgusting parasites that surround their host, usually a human, and suck their blood. Head lice are the most common type of lice, and there are several species of them. All of them are blood lovers and settle in human hair. Head lice spread from person to person by crawling between them. Therefore, they are more commonly found among preschool and elementary school children, as they are often in close proximity to each other, creating an environment where lice can move from head to head. Once a female louse finds a host, she begins laying eggs recklessly at the base of the hair shaft, closest to the scalp. These eggs are also called nits, and they hatch within 8 to 9 days. starting a breeding cycle with the laying of more eggs, until the hair is completely infested and filled with these horrors. Are you starting to itch yet? Number 20. Centipedes. Now, if you're one of those people who really hates when we talk about that centipede crawling across your face, you might want to close your eyes and hum a little tune for the next few minutes. The house centipede is an insect that, as the name suggests, can be found in homes, people's homes, to be more precise. They originally came from the Mediterranean region, but they've spread worldwide and can be found in many other places, maybe even in your home. These centipedes have 15 pairs of long, delicate legs, which they use to run across walls and crawl on the ceiling, and your face, at high speeds during the night. They mainly do this to hunt other insects to eat, but it's also a little bit to scare you. Despite all this, they won't cause you any harm. In fact, depending on how you see it, the house centipede can even be beneficial. They feed on gross household pests like bedbugs, termites, and cockroaches. Although, if you have all those pests, the centipede might not be your biggest problem. Now, there are the giant centipedes, which are a completely different story. These huge centipedes often measure over 30 centimeters and use their super large size to hunt very big prey. Among the giant centipedes' favorite meals are other insects, especially spiders, scorpions, and millipedes. They also enjoy small mammals, like rats and bats, and even birds or frogs. This gives you an idea of how big these creatures can get. And before you think they only hunt tiny creatures, well, humans aren't entirely safe from giant centipedes. They have a venomous bite, which is a danger to people, and there have even been recorded cases of death due to these creatures' bites. That's pretty comforting, isn't it? Thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked our content, please subscribe to our channel and leave a like. Also, check out other interesting content that is appearing on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video. Until next time.